In Toronto, there's a basketball fan like no other.
I breathe, drink, everything about the Raptors basketball.
He's truly...
My whole life is around the Raptors season.
Deeply.
For the last 22 years, I've never missed a game.
A Raptors superfan.
My name is now BHATIA, and I'm Raptors superfan.
If you've watched any Raptors games in the last decade, maybe you've noticed the bearded man sitting courtside. Well, that's Nav, and his story starts in India and takes him right here, to Canada. Fleeing violence, Nav left and settled in Toronto. He worked hard, opened a very successful car dealership, and when the city got its own NBA franchise...
The Raptors arrived and I bought my first 2 tickets. I enjoyed the game. I was cheering the most in the whole arena.
The team embraced him, and being a superfan has its perks.
When the legend Kobe Bryant came for his last game to Toronto, he came to me and said, "Superfan, I want to thank you what you have done, because you have created a culture of bringing everybody together through this game of basketball."
He also gets to hang with Canadian royalty.
I know Drake pretty well.
But what's most important about Nav's superfandom is that he represents the changing face of basketball fans around the world.
Basketball has changed my life tremendously. It has given me an opportunity to integrate my community, the South Asians, into the mainstream.
Nav may be the first Raptors superfan, but he wants everyone on board.
I want to see this game taking to the next level, where all the communities, everybody, the Sikhs, the Hindus, the Muslims, everybody coming to the game.
In London, Ontario, there lives a man whose basement is unlike anything you've ever seen. This is Robert WARDHAUGH.
Hi, my name is Robert WARDHAUGH.
Robert has been playing the same Dungeons & Dragons campaign for over 30 years.
35 years to be exact.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Welcome. Would you like to play a Dwarven rogue? You look like a rogue.
Wait. Let's back up for a second. Dungeons & Dragons is a fantasy role-playing game where a group of people come together and play out adventures dictated by a dungeon master. These adventures, also known as campaigns, are set in the Dungeons & Dragons world, and normally have an endpoint, or they just fizzle out due to people's lack of commitment. But Robert is in a league of his own, and here's why. The dude has a serious collection.
I think our collection of miniatures is around 20,000. And then over the years, I discovered terrain. Ultimately, I'm a collector also. And a lot of my enjoyment comes from being able to get new stuff and to put new stuff on the table, so the players are constantly coming across new settings. Because it's a game that doesn't stick to one particular campaign setting, I'm able to use any figs that actually fit the world. And so it is a long process, but over 35 years, you can develop quite a collection.
As Robert's collection grew, so did the number of players. Word began to spread about the never-ending campaign.
We have people coming from all over the country to play, often flying in.
Wait, all over the country?
That's right.
Robert, can we play now?
These are some of the people who play in Robert's game. Where are you guys from?
I flew in from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
I drove in from Toronto.
Brussels, Ontario.
Kamoka, Ontario.
Calgary, Alberta.
Hold on. What happens if people can't fly in or drive to Robert's house to play?
Hey everyone.
Problem solved.
The game has always been determined really through friendship. It's really been a way that I keep my friends together. I knew early on that if I was able to create a game that was good enough, and that means it had to be better than video games, it had to be better than any other game they could find, that they would keep coming, no matter where I was. And so that takes, again, imagination, and it takes change, and it takes having a system that is constantly dynamic, that is changing, that is growing, and that is constantly getting better.
The Simpsons. It's the longest running animated show with maybe the most recognizable character on TV. Outside of the US, the show is beloved by millions.
Berto, che se trovi una cosetta nera sul cuscino.
Я же могу есть дома, где захочу.
انت صاحبي ولا كلامك رمز سكوت.
And some of the biggest fans, Latin Americans.
Por la mejor sensación del mundo.
In Mexico City, there is one man responsible for making Homero Simpson funny in Spanish.
¿Aló? ¡Soy Homero Simpson! ¡Uh! ¡Pequeño demonio! ¡Te voy a... ¡Pequeño Flanders! ¡Maldito y sensual Flanders!
No es cierto, soy Humberto Vélez.
¡Ya cállate tú, baboso! Yo estoy posesionado de tu cuerpo. Soy Homero el malo. Soy Homero el malo.
No, ahora sí no. Esto me toca a mí.
Ok.
Hola, soy Humberto Vélez. Sí me dejó, ¿eh? Soy Humberto Vélez, soy actor de doblaje y estoy muy contento de estar aquí.
Quiero compartir algo contigo. ¡Miren cómo me dejó!
¿Qué es Homero? Es
un tonto, pero es un tonto de caricatura. Y aparte es ebrio, pero aparte es libidinoso, si te das cuenta. Uy.
Él habla descontroladamente, a veces grita, a veces llora, a veces se ríe.
Entonces, al tonto lo conviertes en caricatura, lo conviertes en ebrio y libidinoso, después lo aumentas así todo descontrolado y grita. ¡Ah!
Esa es más o menos la formación del personaje de Homero Simpson.
Por favor, extraterrestres, no me coman. Tengo mujer y tengo hijos. Cómetelos a ellos.
¿Cómo conviertes a Homero Simpson? Es imposible que un chiste dicho en inglés se entienda en Latinoamérica porque nada es igual. En Latinoamérica son más de 21 países totalmente distintos todos.
¡April Fools! ¡Inocente palomita!
A fuerza tienes que hacer una tropicalización. Pues convertir eso a nuestro ambiente cálido, de risa mucho más fácil, de más agresividad en los chistes, de más explosión en las situaciones.
¿Qué pasó? ¿Por qué se me metieron las arañas?
Era difícil. Por ejemplo, venía una frase un día en un capítulo. La carga semántica de lo que decía allí era muy local, o sea, era muy norteamericana.
This is the most thoughtful thing anybody ever...
Wait, merciful crap! My car!
Entonces tenía que poner algo que fuera tan descabellado como eso. Y aparte de todo, que causara risa. Yo escaneaba en mi cerebro. Y buscando en ese escaneo, encontré una frase que decía un amigo mío. Entonces le puse,
¡me quiero volver chango!
Y se tiró de la risa medio planeta y la grabación. Le dije, le atiné.
¡Me quiero volver chango! ¡Mi auto!
Homero Simpson es tan popular porque es uno de nosotros. Homero Simpson todo lo intenta y en todo fracasa. ¿En qué se diferencia de ti? ¿En qué se diferencia de mí? Todo lo intentamos y en todo fracasamos.
Intentarlo es el primer paso hacia el fracaso.
¿Cómo no te vas a identificar con un personaje que sale en la tele, lo ves y dices, ¡oh, ese soy yo!
चार्ली चैपलिन भारत में बहुत ही लोकप्रिय है। जैसे उन्होंने पहली पिक्चर 1914 में की, उसके बाद और आज तक उनके इंतकाल के बाद भी अभी तक वो दिलों में मशहूर हैं, लोगों के पास राज कर रहे हैं।
In the town of Adipur in India's Gujarat state, you will find a man who is arguably Charlie Chaplin's biggest fan.
मेरा नाम डॉक्टर अशोक सुखमल आसवानी और मैं चार्ली चैपलिन को बहुत बहुत प्यार करता हूँ। चार्ली चैपलिन का पहला मूवी देखा मैंने गोल्ड रश, और वो मेरा पहला प्यार था उस पोस्टर के प्रति, बाद में पिक्चरों के प्रति। चार्ली चैपलिन की जब मैंने पिक्चर देखी तो मैं देखते देखते हंसते थे लोटपोट हो गया और बाकायदे सीट से नीचे गिर गया।
Dr. Aswani practices herbal medicine in his village and uses Charlie Chaplin to help treat his patients.
और उनको इलाज के लिए दवा देने के साथ डीवीडी भी चार्ली चैपलिन की देखता हूँ कि आप देखते रहें तो खुश होते हैं। Laughter is the best medicine.
Dr. Aswani isn't the only one with a passion for Mr. Chaplin. He started the Charlie Circle in 1973 to honor and remember one of the world's greatest comedians. Charlie Chaplin is beloved because of his everyman attitude and comedy that brought joy to the masses.
अभी हाल में हमारे पास चार्ली सर्कल के जो सदस्य गिने गए थे तो करीबन 350 हैं.
Every year, the Charlie Circle celebrates Charlie Chaplin with a parade, singing, dancing, and of course, cake.
I want to keep him alive till I am alive, and then my grandsons, my friends, and all these fellows will keep him alive because of his marvelous acting without saying any words to the public.
The yellow mustache, the yellow hair, the big green eyes. He's Bernie Brewer, the Milwaukee Brewers mascot. Bernie's the heart and soul of the Brewers, but who is Bernie? He's actually based on Milt Mason, a real-life Brewers fanatic. In the late 1970s, a 69-year-old Mason decided that he would perch himself on top of the stadium's scoreboard. He vowed not to come down until a crowd of at least 40,000 people came to see a Brewers game. A little over a month later, 44,387 people filled the stadium. And Milt, now a hero, came down from his perch. A few years later, in 1973, Bernie Brewer became the official mascot of the Milwaukee Brewers. Just like Milt Mason, Bernie knew how to make an entrance. He first emerged from a beer-barreled chalet, and after every home run, he would slide down from his perch into a beer stein. Sadly, in 1984, the Brewers tore down Bernie's perch and pushed him into retirement. That didn't last long, however, and in 1993, Brewers fans voted and brought Bernie back. Bernie Brewer, back on his scoreboard perch, has no plans of retiring anytime soon.